I want to show you something today that I think is going to change how you look at online tutoring as a business. I'm going to walk you through every single tool I pay for to run my tutoring business and what each one costs, what the free version looks like if you're not ready to pay yet, and exactly what my total overhead actually is at the end of the month. Then I'm going to show you what I do with the rest of my reinvestment budget because I set aside a percentage of everything I earn for business expenses, and what my actual tool costs are, they don't come anywhere near using it all up. Low overhead is a huge perk of owning your own online tutoring business. It's just how this business works. And once you see the numbers, I think you'll get why I've been doing this for over 20 years and have zero plans to stop, and why you should think about becoming an online tutor as well. I'm Daisy Luce. I help others build a flexible, profitable online tutoring business like me. Let's dive in. Most businesses have real overhead. You've got a space to pay for, inventory to buy, employees, equipment that breaks. Even most online businesses have meaningful costs once you add up software, ad spend, contractors, platform fees, you name it. Online tutoring is different. You don't need an office, right? Except maybe the one you have at home or space you have at home. You don't have inventory. You don't even have to have staff if you don't want to. I don't. I haven't ever, and I love it just working for myself, by myself. You need what you do need though, you need a device, you need decent internet, and maybe just a handful of tools to make the whole thing operate easiest for you. But these tools cost less per month than what most people spend on their streaming services. The best part of most of these expenses I'm about to show you, they all have a free version as well that worked great for me for many, many years. And I'll talk you through that too. Even though I pay for a few more monthly items now, I've been doing this, as I said, for over 20 years, and my overhead has never gotten significant. It just doesn't with this business, which means almost everything you bring in goes to you. How many other businesses can claim the same thing? I don't think many can. So let me show you exactly what my expenses are for each month, and I'll tell you which ones I used for free for years and how you could still get away with that for a lot of them now. All right, let's check it out. These are the tools I pay for to run the tutoring side of my business. First one, Google Workspace. That's my professional Gmail, Google Meet, Google Drive for storing all my materials, and it is about $17 a month. Now, if you are just starting out, honestly, a regular free Gmail is just fine. You don't need the paid version on day one. One reason I do like the paid version, besides having all the storage space, as I just said, digital storage space, is I also get to use my domain name as part of my handle on my Gmail. So I can be like at Daisy Luce, where if you sign up for the free version, of course, you can do your name in the front of the at, and then it would be at Gmail. But honestly, that is just fine. I used it for years. I still have my free account running because I have a lot of families that I worked with back in those days that I'm still working with the younger siblings now as they've grown up, and I still operate out of that free account as well. So that's the first thing. Second one, Tutorbird. Tutorbird is next. This is my student management system for tutoring. It handles scheduling, session notes, invoicing, all the records, all in one place. It does allow students to come in and sign up um, on the calendar as well. I don't use that part of it right now. I'll explain why in a minute. But I absolutely love Tutorbird for the ease of scheduling. I will pay the $17 a month for it. When I was starting out, I didn't have so many students that I needed something operational to keep me organized. And really, I just used an Excel spreadsheet and an invoice template that I found on my computer. and it worked fine for a really long time. So that was the free version that I used of this. But if you're ready for a full management tool, there are a lot of them out there. I really love Tutorbird. One thing that's helped me so much that it does, besides the invoicing, the scheduling, it sends out the automatic email reminders with my Zoom link attached. That has saved me so much time. It can also send text, automatic text reminders. I don't use the texting ability at this point because a lot of the students that I work with, they're big into texting and I would like to use it, but if they get this automated text and they try to respond to it, as many of them just naturally would, it won't come back to me. It just goes to a dead end. Where when Tutorbird sends out the Zoom link in an email, if they respond to the email, that does come back to me. I'm hoping that gets fixed at some point and there's a better way to connect that. But for now, I let Tutorbird send out the emails with the Zoom link. And then just on a day-to-day basis, I send a quick text reminder to whoever I'm seeing that day. I just find that, again, because students tend to gravitate towards texting instead of email, they're more likely to see the reminder in text, and I have a lot of them respond to that for various reasons, so I definitely want it to be me. But all in all, Tutorbird has still saved me a tremendous amount of time and keeps me really organized, and I absolutely love it. Okay, third, ChatGPT. Yes, we need to start thinking about AI tools in our businesses. I have the paid version. You don't have to pay the 20 bucks a month. Yet, if you don't want to, the free one is just fine for many of you. And I'm sure some of you are not a fan of AI and aren't using it at all yet. I do have another video about AI and tutoring that I'll link below that I think is really important for you to understand where tutoring is going and how AI has a role in that. But for me, I use AI for drafting parent emails or text, for creating practice problems. That's a huge part in my day-to-day when I need a worksheet or a set of problems in a specific on a specific topic. I use AI for a lot of that. That's very helpful to save me time. It also can write up session summaries. It it does save me time during the week. I only listed ChatGPT here as sometimes that is the most known out of all the AIs, but I also use Claude, Notebook LM, and Gemini, all for different reasons that they all have a different specialty that they really excel at within the AI universe. There are free versions for almost all of those, though, that works fine if you're not ready to pay and you're still learning the platforms and figuring it all out. All right, fourth, Zoom. I pay annually for Zoom, which comes out to about $14 a month. All my sessions run on Zoom. Families know how to use it. The screen sharing is remarkable. It just works really well. The free version of Zoom, there is a free version. I don't recommend it. It cuts you off at 40 minutes. There aren't many tutors that are tutoring for under 40 minutes. Maybe if you're working with elementary and you're only doing a 30-minute session, the free version might work. But once you have enough steady clients, you're going to end up having clients that are over that 40-minute limit. And that would be a hard expense that would be a little harder to cut. Although you could just switch to a totally different platform, like just use FaceTime or Google Meet if you really didn't want to pay. But I do think, again, their screen sharing capability and reliability overall is worth the monthly expense. And that's the only expense so far that I think you would absolutely need to invest in. You're talking about $14 a month when it comes down to it. Okay, Calendly. So Calendly is another scheduling app that I do like to use, even though I have Tutorbird to do scheduling as well. And this is because Calendly was developed just as a scheduler, and it is phenomenal at what it does. So Calendly is what I use with all of my students for my initial bookings, and the paid plan is about $10 a month if you do the annual billing. But again, there is a free tier that really is fine. I believe the only reason you have to actually end up buying Calendly is if you need more than one calendar, which I do use, and if you wanted to collect payment through Calendly. I think you have to pay for it then too. Um, but I just really like the whole way it sets up. It's a great way. It's a great way. I actually use it. I've talked about this in other videos. I use it kind of like as a website when I have a new client. It's an easy way to send them this beautiful layout with instant access to me to sign up, get on my calendar, all the information they need. It looks so professional, and I just really like it. It's very easy to use. Okay. Then lastly, I have my domain name. I use Namecheap, and it's about $1.50 a month when you pay for annual, and so basically nothing. You do not need this on day one though, but once you're earning consistently, and if you did want your own web address, besides just using Calendly, as I said, for your website, you would need to get your domain name. And then finally, I also am an LLC, which you file through your state that you live in. That comes to about $60 a year. So I said $5 a month. You don't have to have an LLC. You can absolutely start as just a sole proprietor. There's nothing you have to fill out to do that, except when you do your taxes. You just do a Schedule C and fill it all out. This is not tax advice, though. Make sure you talk to your tax accountant. Once you're earning real money, though, you definitely would want to reevaluate if being a sole proprietor is still the right move, or if you should become an LLC, or there's other options too. That we need to do a whole nother video just on taxes, I think, at some point. Okay. The only other cost I didn't add to this list was internet services, because I tutor at home. We're going to have internet here at our house regardless, so I didn't count that as a business expense here, but I do write some of these things off in my taxes at the end of the year. Again, let's do a tax video. I'll talk you through some of those expenses and what you do at the end of the year. Or talk to your accountant. That would be fantastic, and get all the information there. But that's it. That's everything. Add it all up. You're looking at about $85 to $105 a month for me now on the higher end. But when I first started, I told you I only paid for Zoom. So my cost was $14 a month, and you could get away with that now. Same way. Easy. Actually, now that I think about it, when I first started, Zoom was free for quite a while. They were trying to get everybody to use their platform. So it was completely free when I first started switching my in-person business to online tutoring. So I didn't even have to pay for that. I ran an entire business that was making me really good money with no expenses. That is wild. So let's talk about, though, how much I actually put back into my business. I set aside 10% of everything I earn for business expenses and investment. And that's my reinvestment bucket, the money I'm deliberately putting back into the business each month. Now, out of that 10%, the expenses I just listed is only 1 to 2% of my total monthly income. So my expenses and a percent and like percent calculation, 1 to 2% a month. It still blows me away just to say that out loud and to think about it. So out of that 10% bucket, my hard expenses use up barely over 1%. The rest of it's just sitting there waiting for me to put back into the business. So what do I actually do with that leftover reinvestment money? because the whole point of the 10% rule is that you're putting it back into your business. For me, it goes a few places. I like to keep my equipment current. I have an iPad, an Apple Pencil that I use when I'm traveling or as my backup devices. I don't like something to break and not have a backup plan. I also like to keep my tools up to date. I think of equipment as not an expense, but as an investment in the quality of my work. I also like to invest in my real office setup here at home. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it needs to feel professional and it needs to be somewhere you actually want to spend time because you'll be there quite a bit. And that matters more than people think. I like I love my office. I love what I've been able to do with it. I love having my own little space and I love coming in here to work. So I put money into that. I also have a co-working membership at an office club near me. I use it when I want to get out of the house, a change of scenery, different energy. It's also a backup space if for some reason my internet did go down or the electricity failed. I have that space as a backup. So I do like to do that too. And I consider that an investment. And I pay for AI tools. As I said, I pay for some of those other AI tools, not necessarily for tutoring, but to help with the other side of my business, which is this right here, helping tutors build their own businesses. One other thing I need to mention. So I've only talked about expenses and reinvesting, but you also have taxes and you have processing fees for your payments. So with taxes, I put 20% right off the top of every payment that I bring in into a separate account. I've heard people say that they do anywhere from 15% to 25%. I like to sit kind of right in the middle around 20%. I found that works for me. I like putting that money aside every single time a payment comes in because you don't want to be the person who owes the IRS in April and you don't have it set aside already. That is such a gut punch to your business if suddenly you have to cough up all this money and pull it from other places. So don't let that happen. And then the second fee that pops up is the payment processing fees. These aren't very much. Whether you're on Venmo Business, PayPal, Stripe, or taking credit cards, it's usually around 2 to 3%. It's not huge, but it's there. You can either build it into your rate and charge your client or customer, or decide you're just absorbing it, but just go in knowing it's there. These expenses you only owe after you make money. So I didn't include them in the list of monthly expenses earlier that I pay each month because those are happening whether I make $0 in a month or $10,000 in a month. Those expenses, monthly expenses, I have to pay. But these two here, the taxes and the payment processing fees, I'm only paying if somebody pays me. So that's when I just put that money aside. And that's it. 10% of what I earn goes into expenses and reinvestment. 1 to 2% of that is for the actual monthly expenses. Then I do 20% for taxes, 2 to 3% for processing fees. The overhead is so low. That's just how online tutoring works. And it's one of the best things about it. So, what do you think? Still thinking about diving into online tutoring for yourself? Does this help pull back the curtains so you can see a little bit more of what to expect and what it's like? I hope so. If you're watching this thinking, okay, but what do I actually charge when I tutor? I talked about that in my last video. I'll link it below if you want to go back and watch. Real tutor rates broken down by tier with actual numbers. So that's it for now. Subscribe below if you want to keep talking about the amazing world of online tutoring. And I'll see you next week. Happy tutoring, friend.